What if the world you once knew was taken over by demons? Would you stand and fight, or would you cower in fear and let others do the fighting? That is the question that Orient tries to answer. If you like manga, then you'll definitely like this series as it is written by the same manga. Although it's not as good, it is still worth checking out for its own reasons. Orient is a very action-heavy anime that covers a pretty interesting story. I'm really excited to see where Orient will go as it has a lot of potential to be a really great series. The series really hooked me in with the first episode by introducing us to the world and the conflicts we'll be facing throughout our journey with these characters. Orient is quite unique in concept as well. Like, yeah, demon slaying stories are everywhere, but the way that Orient goes about handling this concept really makes it a unique series. The way the world is structured gives you a very weird vibe. All the demons are worshipped as gods, and the people fighting to save humanity are treated like the lowest of the low, which also provides a nice conflict as our main characters are doing exactly that. We still have so much of Orient that we need to explore. Like, at this point, we really only got introduced to everything. We had one big fight and saw how the fights are handled in the series, which is good. Once the series gets a little longer and we get to explore more of it, it's going to really open up, and it may even be a better series than manga, although that is unlikely. I do think that the series has the potential to stand on its own 2 feet and make a name for itself, if not with the anime, then definitely with the manga where the story for the series originates. I feel like Otaka Shinobu really knows where she is trying to take the story and is driving it home with how she handles the story and art of everything. Orient is one of those series that I feel like gets a lot more hate than it deserves, only really because it doesn't live up to her previous work, manga, and so people just hate on the series for no reason. I'm not saying the hate isn't fully justified, as this series is far from perfect, but even still, it is a really good series with fun characters and an interesting world to explore. So with that being said, I recommend that you give this series a try if you like manga, as I'm sure you will like it, because it had the same feel as manga, just in this new world and new characters. Speaking of characters, let's get to talking about them. The characters in this series are super interesting and fun from what I've seen so far. The personalities are great. They have good motivations and they all have a lot of room to grow as characters, which makes me really excited to see where they're going to go. I feel like these characters still lack in a lot of ways as well. They're not perfect, that's for sure. Like Musashi, our main character, feels a lot more like every other shonen main character, which is fine as that formula clearly works, and her previous protagonist Aladdin had a very similar feel to him as well. But it's not just him. I feel like all of the characters we have seen so far have had very similar tropes we see in a lot of shonen characters. The characters work for what they are, and I'm not hating on the characters as it is still enjoyable to see them grow and overcome what makes them feel generic. With that being said, I would say that the characters are fun, and I could recommend this series based on the characters easily because it is just really fun to see them. I feel like the world is where the series truly shines. There's a lot of lore we have already learned, and there's probably still more to come, but we also get to see exactly where the world is going. We can see how people treat samurai in this world with a lot of disdain and anger because they are fighting to, in their eyes, kill the gods. That makes things interesting because that means that the characters have to genuinely want to fight for humanity at any cost, even if they get ostracized because they genuinely just care and don't want to see the world get destroyed any further than it already is. I'm excited to explore more of this world as we get further into the story, as so far it is really interesting. Like, I want to learn exactly what happened to the world to get it in the state it is in now. From what we know, the people used to love the samurai who were fighting for humanity, so I want to know exactly where that went wrong and why now it seems like the people truly despise the samurai, if they even know they exist at all, which is super interesting. I'm sure that we'll get all that answered in time and we will have a full and interesting world in our hands that make the story come along with it. I recommend this series for the world alone as it is really interesting to explore and see more of. Alright, let's get talking about the art and animation. This series looks fine. It's not the greatest looking anime of all time, but it looks okay. The manga definitely looks better than the anime. The animation is kinda average. Not bad, not amazing either, just kinda okay. It has its moments for sure, but it's still not the greatest thing of all time. I can't really say much more. Everything about the anime looks fine. Not bad, but not great either. I would honestly recommend the manga over the anime in this aspect for sure. The music in this series is pretty good. I like the feel of the soundtrack. It's not spectacular, but maybe it's just a preference of mine. I like how the music is used to enhance everything. Like, you should for sure listen to the soundtrack for this anime because it is really good. It gets those emotions flowing in a bunch of different ways, like with how the music can be in a fight or how somber it can be at times as well. What if the world you once knew was taken over by demons? Would you stand and fight, or would you cower in fear and let others do the fighting? That is the question that Orient tries to answer, in which I think it does a pretty good job of that. Orient isn't the greatest series ever written, but it does have its own charm that I really like, and it makes me want to see where the series is going to go in the future. Just about everything about this series is just average or barely above average. I do think this series gets way more hate than it deserves because it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I think it only gets that much hate because people are comparing it to her previous work, and that causes a bunch of problems because you're not always going to have a hit. I mean, even Kishimoto doesn't always write the next big series, so you need to cut a mangaka some slack and just judge the story of what it is. And Orient isn't that bad. It's still a fun story and one that I do recommend to you guys if you're looking for a fun shonen anime that can just turn your brain off and watch a good show.